What is up, my dudes, and welcome back to another video. I hope you're all keeping safe out there during this whole lockdown kerfuffle. It's a strange world at the moment, right? I think everyone's just trying to do their best to keep busy, including me, hence why I'm back and uploading videos again, and this time in person. I figured I'd get a webcam, one ginger to a whatever you are. Now, as the video suggests, I'm going to be showing you how to clip an image into text. It's a really simple effect, a really easy effect to use, but it gives you some great results, and some of the thumbnails you're going to get out of this and some of the images look amazing. So for what it is and how quick it is to do, it's a really cool effect. So as with any new Photoshop project, the first thing we're going to want to do is open up a new project. So hit File and New, and I'm going to keep a sort of wide-screened image here. So I'm going to go for something that's around about 2000 in width and 1000 pixels in height, and that will give me that sort of widescreen stretch look. Now don't panic if this is too wide, we can go ahead and crop the canvas size later, which I'm likely going to have to do. So once you've got your image open, we're going to need a big old slab of text on there. So I'm going to choose my text icon and just drag out a rectangle to fill up my screen. Now the text you're going to use, or you're going to want to use, is going to need to be sort of bold or a little bit thick, because don't forget, you're going to want to squeeze as much of that image as you can into this text to really show it off. And if you've got a really thin and sort of pencil-like text, it's just not going to look that pleasing. So what I would do is Impact's a really good font to use for this, but if you're not sort of down with using the standard fonts, you can head on websites like DaFonts or something like that, and you can download a whole bunch of sort of Star Wars theme fonts or Batman theme fonts or whatever that are really sort of girthy, if you like. But in this case, I'm going to stick with the standard Impact. So we've got our text. I'm going to want to choose a word, and in this case I'm going to go with Earth, but I'm going to want to change my font color to black and make sure that I'm in all capitals. You don't have to be in capitals, I'm just going with it for the sake of this video. And make sure that my font size there, sorry, I've clicked on the wrong thing here, make sure my font size there is large. In this case I'm having to use 750 to fill up the whole screen, but go with a fairly big font size. Again, we can change that later if we need to, but for now I just want to keep it quite large. And then center your image. That looks about right. I think that might be a little bit out, but we'll go with it. I can't be bothered to bring up these center margins. So once you've got your text in there, we're going to want to move our image in. So step 1, text. Step 2, image. So I'm going to go File and Open and import the image of choice, which in this case is a big old picture of Earth. But it's going to open this in a new tab. So I'm going to choose my rectangle tool up here, highlight the whole image, select my move tool and just drag this back over to that original tab and slap that in there. Now I'm going to need to resize this, as you can see, but before I do that, I'm going to want to convert it to a smart object, and there's no shortcut for that at the moment. So what you're going to want to do is right click on the layer and hit convert to smart object, and what that does is it stops any image or pixel loss when you're resizing the image without converting it to a smart object. If I was to shrink the image down and then try and blow it back up, we're going to lose a whole lot of pixel density in there. It's going to look very blurry when we blow it back up. Converting it to a smart layer just keeps on record those original pixel densities, and when we blow it back up, we don't lose any image quality. So you can go ahead and amend that as often as you want, and it will stay exactly as is. So now we've converted it to a smart layer. I'm going to hit Control T or Command and T on my keyboard and just resize this. So I'm going to want to stretch it out so it fits the vertical format, and then I'm going to copy that height percentage and use Control C and then Control V to just paste it into my width. Once I've done that, I'm going to hit this move tool and just confirm my selection. So as we suspected, we've got these sort of white borders down the sides, which we don't want. So I'm going to hit image and then go to canvas size, or alternatively you can hit Control Alt or C or Command Alt and C, but I'm just going to use the drop down, hit canvas size, and I'm going to change that out to, I think, around about 24. Yours is likely going to be different, but just have a look. If you clip it too much or you don't clip it enough, you can hit Control Z to undo that and then just go back in and redo that. But in this case, 24 seemed to work about right, and then we're good with that. Yeah, we're happy with that. So once we've got our image selected, we're now going to want to, once we've got our image selected and placed where we want, we're going to want to clip this down to the text itself. So on my keyboard, I'm going to hit Control Alt and G to create a clipping mask for that layer. If that don't work, you can also just right click on the layer and then hit create clipping mask. It's the exact same thing. So feel free to go ahead and move your image around, get it looking or get it positioned exactly where you want. In this case, I'm pretty happy with where that's landed, so I'm going to leave it as is. But you can also resize it because we converted it to a smart layer. So go absolutely crazy. Move that around, get it wherever you want. And don't forget, you can either use Control Z or Control Alt and Z to continue stepping backwards if you make any mistakes. Now, if you've come here just to clip an image to text, that's pretty much it. You can go one step further and you can sort of add a little effect to your text if you want. So if you double click on the text layer, you're going to get what we call our layer style or layer options. And from there, you can go in and add things like a drop shadow or an outer glow. Drop shadow tends to be the main one that everyone uses. And you can mess with all these sliders to get it looking how you want, if you want sort of like a really deep, in-depth look. But I tend to just keep my distance on around about 0 and maybe up my spread and my size just a teeny bit. But in this case, I think that looks around about good. I like that. Oh, and you can also change the color if you wanted to. So you can have like a red backdrop or whatever. But in this case, I'm going to keep it black. And that kind of just adds this cool look to the image. So like I said, if you come here just to clip an image to text, perfect. You're about done. I'm going to go one step further. And I'm just going to add a little bit of background to this. And I'm going to use the original background actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Control C on my keyboard to copy my layer 1 here. And I'm going to Control V to paste it back in. And we're going to undo all the work we've just done. Which is, you know, not really what we want to do. So once we've done that, drag this top layer down to just above the background. And I think that's moved, well, that's clipped it a little bit funky. It has. So I'm going to want to drag that over to about there. So make sure you recenter your image if you need to. And then you're going to notice it gives us this sort of outline of our text. That's because we've now got two images in there and you can't see the differentiations between them. So I'm going to want to lower the opacity on the layer that I've just pasted in a bit. And you'll notice it starts to give it this kind of cool effect. Now, I don't like that washed out white that we're getting there. Some of you might be into that, some of you might like that. But for me, that's just a little bit too washed out, a little bit hard to look at. So I'm going to go ahead, choose my background layer and make sure that my my secondary color is black over here. And then using Control and Backspace or Command and Backspace on my keyboard, I'm just going to change the color of my background. And what you'll notice that does is it darkens that background for us, and in my opinion makes the text stand out a lot better. So I'm going to lower the opacity just a little bit further on that. And I think I'm happy with that. I might even lower it just a little bit more. And then on my original layer here, I'm just going to change the levels a little bit. So I'm going to come into here, click on levels, and just brighten some bits and darken some bits. There you go. Do I like that? Yeah, big fan. So after I've done my levels, that should then begin to sort of pronate a bit. And I'm fairly happy with that. I like how that looks. So that's about all we're going to go over in this. There's a whole bunch of different text effects you can use and different text filters and even textures and patterns you can apply to your text in this. But I'm not going to go over them in this video because I want to keep it sort of as short and simple as I can, and we're already at 8 minutes. But if you do want me to do a sort of video on different text styles, please do let me know. Otherwise, that's about it. Enjoy the rest of your day, dudes. Hopefully you got a cool image out of this, and hopefully you can make use of it somewhere. And I will see you in the next video, I'm sure.